I've been wanting to do a video for a while on loss, and the other day it was the 4th anniversary of losing my dad, the day before Remembrance Day, and it was a difficult day. I was working, but I was also thinking about my dad and what day it was, and I've been thinking about doing this video for a while, and it's reminded me that we all react differently to loss and we all carry loss differently. One of my very close friends recently lost her brother, and she's been struggling with that. And in my work recently, I've had a lot of clients that have lost people very close to them and lost people very recently. I spoke to a client last week who lost her mum last week, and it is one of those things that's so difficult to talk about. And I think sometimes when we do lose someone, we forget that it's okay to talk about them. And even though the people around us are also going through that loss, it's actually okay to express that and say it out loud. And when I'm working with clients, I always want to express to them and explain to them that grief is a process, and it doesn't have a beginning, middle and end. I think a lot of people focus on the stages of grief, and they think that when you see the stages, it's like you move through them on different days and then you move out the other side. And that's really not the case. Some of the stages of grief, you can have 2 or 3 of them in one day, depending on how you're feeling. And I think people feel like they should get over a loss. They should actually get over it and move out the other side. And sometimes when people are grieving, people decide that there should be a time frame. They should be back at work by this time. They should be out socialising by this time. They should be over it by a certain time. And there is no time frame for grief. Grief is not something that you get over. It's not something that you go through a process or a grieving ritual or the stages of grief and then you walk out the other side. That's not how it works. Grief is something that you learn to live with. And I say that to my clients because I want to normalise the grief for them. I want to give them the opportunity to grieve the way they're grieving and be where they are. A lot of people think they should be somewhere else, and actually, if you are really struggling with grief, if you are really upset, if you are triggered by memories of that person, by pictures of that person, by songs, by someone saying something, that's okay, and that's where you are. And I think when we are grieving, we forget to be kind to ourselves and we forget to nurture ourselves. And actually, the way we're feeling is really important and it's valuable and it's valid, because the reason that grief is so difficult is because of the love that you had for that person. It's about honouring that person and how you felt about them and what they meant to you and the presence that they had in your life. And I think we forget that it's okay to grieve, and it's okay to grieve in your own way, and it's also okay to take your time, because grief is extremely difficult. It's a very, very difficult thing to go through, and it's a very painful process. And as I say, the reason it's so painful is because of the level of love you had for that person and the level of upset and grief that you have is to honour the person that you've lost. I found it difficult at times since I've lost my dad. I didn't think I'd get upset doing this video actually, but that just shows you how difficult grief can be. It's been 4 years, but I still feel upset about it and I still struggle with it. And me and my dad at times didn't see eye to eye. And I think that happens a lot when you're growing up and you have can have conflict sometimes with a parent. But he was an amazing dad, and he was an absolute amazing grandpa. And I could not have chosen a better grandpa for my children, because he loved them endlessly. He would have done anything for them. He was the kind of grandpa who was on the floor, crawling about with them. He was all about the cuddles. They were all about their grandpa. They would run past their nanny, who they love very, very much, but they would run past their nanny to see grandpa and go, is grandpa here? Is he here? And they would run past their nanny to cuddle their grandpa. And sometimes run past me to cuddle their grandpa. He was an absolutely amazing grandpa, and he loved my boys with every part of his soul and his being. And I think that's one of the hardest things. Grief is hard for me, but I also see my children's grief, and I see their loss. And there's times where, like, I go and watch my boys play football, and I go and watch them do their speed skating, and I just think my dad would be so proud of them, and he would have been there for everything, because he would have wanted to support them, and he would have wanted to say, that's my grandson, that's my other grandson, this is how good they are, this is how amazing they are. And that is what really hurts, is knowing that they're growing without him, and that I can't say, Dad, they've got a football match on Saturday, are you able to go? And yeah, so it is really, really hard. It's hard knowing that my children are growing up without their grandfather and without that presence. And they have my mum, which is amazing. They have their nanny, who loves them to bits, and will go to their assemblies, and will be at their swimming, and goes with me to the speed skating most weekends. And she picks them up from school, and she feeds them and takes them if I need to do something, and she's absolutely amazing. But there's a big hole there and a big gap there where my dad would be, and where his presence would have been. And I know he's still with me, I know he is, and whatever you believe in, some people do believe that people are still with them, some people believe that people are looking down on them. I always believe that he's there, and that, especially when my wee Robin visits my garden, I know that he's there, and he's coming to have a wee look and check in on us. But grief is very, very difficult and very painful. And what I would say is, if you're going through a really difficult grieving process, it takes time, and there is no time frame, there is no calendar, there is no, you should be over it by this period of time. It's all individual. It depends on how you're feeling, how you're coping. It depends on what type of relationship you had with the person that you've lost. And it's really important to take care of yourself and look at what you need. Look at the time that you need. Look at the support that you need. If you need support, reach out to people. And what I would say is, a lot of people will say to me, well, I can't talk to my mum about this because it's my dad that I've lost and she's grieving as well. Or I can't talk to this person because they're going through the grieving process as well. And what I would say is, I understand that, and I understand not wanting to upset other people. But the other person is grieving the same person. And it can be very good to talk to someone in your family, your close circle, who's lost that person, because you have shared experiences of that person. You have a shared love for that person. And it can really help to talk about it with someone really close, because you know what you've lost, you know the value of that person to each other. And if you can't do that, or you don't want to do that, or you don't have someone to speak to, it's really good to reach out to one of the charities. Cruise Bereavement Care is very good. They have a bereavement helpline. They can also provide counselling in some of their services, if that's necessary and if you're ready to go through that. And what I would say is it's counselling too early in a grieving process can actually accelerate the grieving process to a place where you're not ready for. So I would say that there is very much a natural grieving process that happens and it needs to happen, however painful it is. But if you feel that you really aren't moving forward and you feel that you need help, then reach out. There is no shame in that. And I think it's really important to talk about the person you've lost, have conversations about them. Don't let their memory die away. It's important to say, oh, Dad would have loved that, or your papa would have really liked that, or your papa would be so proud of you. And I try and talk to my boys about my dad, about their grandpa. But I think sometimes we just try and get on with life, and actually it's at different times in life, like anniversaries or birthdays or things like that, or Christmas. Obviously Christmas is coming up and that makes me think about him even more. And that's the times when it is more important to get support, because that's the times that are harder. And grief is a process and it doesn't go away. What I would say is it just gets easier to live with the weight of the grief. You carry the weight of your grief with you wherever you go. And the more time you have and the distance from it, sometimes that weight gets lighter and it gets more manageable, but you're never able to put it down. But that's what grief is. It's love and it's loss and it's pain and it's valid. And it's really important to acknowledge that and honour the person that we've lost. If you have any advice to people that are going through a loss, please put it in the comments. Anything that you've tried or anything that you've done that's helped you get through grief. It's always good to share these things and get support from people. So please comment if you have any experiences that you would like to share. And I hope whoever you've lost and whatever you're going through and the grief that you're going through, that you get the support you need. Thank you so much.